calling to a journey of faith. Genesis chapter 12, verse 1 through 9. As you see in this map, Abraham made a lot of travel in his life. Think about in old days, in ancient times, they didn't have good transportation and not a good security. So the traveling different countries and nations are very dangerous for them. But why did God ask Abraham make this journey travel? And this Abraham's journey gave us very good insight about to understand about our faith. So I can say our spiritual life is a process, a lifelong process to learn about how to trust in God. And final destination of our spiritual journey is heavenly city. As God called Abraham 4,000 years ago to show who God is in the world and to make people trust in God, to return to God, the same way today God calls us to this journey of faith. So in order that we can reflect God's goodness, God's character, so that people can trust in God and they can rejoice, they can enjoy God's blessing. As we have messages from Abraham's life and his faith for several weeks from today, we want to know more about our journey of faith and strengthen our faith. Genesis chapter 12, verse 1 through 9. Now the Lord said to Abraham, go out from your country, your relatives, and your father's household to a land that I will show you. Then I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, so that you will exemplify divine blessing. I will bless those who bless you, but the one who treats you lightly I must curse. And all the families of the earth will bless one another by your name. So Abraham left just as the Lord had told him to do, and Lot went with him. Now Abraham was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And Abraham took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they left for the land of Canaan. They entered the land of Canaan. Abraham traveled through the land as far as the oak tree of Moreh at Shechem. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. The Lord appeared to Abraham and said, to your descendants I will give this land. So Abraham built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. Then he moved from there to hill country east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and worshipped the Lord. Abraham continually journeyed by stages down to the Negev. First, it is a calling to a journey of faith. God said, depart your homeland and follow me. If you look at verse 1 here, so God emphasizes 3 times your country, your relatives, your father's household. So you should leave everything that are familiar to you. For what? Why did Abraham depart his family, his friends? In order to go to the place that God will show him. So God didn't finalize where to go. For now, he was heading to Canaan, but God didn't specify which town, which location, exact place Abraham should settle down. God said, to the land that I will show you. He simply said, follow me, follow me. So essence of this departure is self-denial. imagine if you need to leave this hometown, need to leave some other new town, new country, then you will truly pray more and seek God's will. In this way, you learn how to follow God's guidance, how to adapt God's definition of good and evil, which is the life of trust. Because you know the story of uh, the tree of good and evil. So God planted the tree in the center of the Garden of Eden and asked them not to eat that fruit. That meant trust me, my definition of good and evil. Whatever I say good is good for you. Whatever say it is bad and it is bad for you. Never try define good and evil by yourself. But people didn't want that because people wanted to accumulate, build up their own value system based on definition of good and evil. In this way, they far away from the Lord's presence. They departed, they deserted, they refused God's sovereignty in their life. So Abraham need to depart his definition of good and evil, his comfort zone, his home ground, homeland, in order to follow God's definition. What about you guys? If you think the money is the most important thing in your life, but you gotta seek a job, you can get higher salary. If you wanna have a stable life, that is highest priority, then you're gonna seek place is you can settle down. But God asks you move, uh, depart from your hometown, go to the place God directs you. So which is against your value system. What did you do? Make sure God calls you to this way, okay? If there's no calling from God, if you do that way, you are run away. Then you can say, how do we know God's calling? Well, let's start small things. If you follow God's will, God's command in small things, then God will show you bigger plan in your life. Let's say you have finals on Monday. You haven't studied yet, you haven't prepared for it, but because of your frustration, your pressure on your heart, what did you do on Sunday? What is God's will for you? Yeah, come to Sunday service and ask God's help. And after that, you can prepare the final exam. When you are ready to sacrifice your money or your GPA or your success in order to follow Jesus, then God will show you bigger plan, a big picture for your life. As you also see here, God didn't specify what the location exactly. That means it's not a departure to a place, but to a journey of trusting God. So in your life, you gotta keep trusting His words, and you gotta continue to follow His direction, relying on His promises. Verse 6, there lived a resident already in the land that Abram arrived. Abram could complain, why did you bring me to an occupied land? However, God confirmed this way, to your descendants, I will give this land. Even though Abram had no children, God is telling him he would give this land to his descendants. Also, Abraham kept moving. Why? Because he couldn't find any suitable place to settle down. Abraham continually journeyed by stages down to the Negev. If you look at here, All his situations around him didn't agree to God's promise or his expectation. And all those things demand Abraham's faith. Look at yourself. Look at your life. Did you expect God's blessing when you believe in Jesus? If you don't understand this, what happened to Abraham's life here, you might be confused again and again in your spiritual journey. Why does not give me a stable life, security? But remember that never try to settle down in this world. Just be satisfied daily bread and daily provision. Because our ultimate final destination is the heavenly city. That's why Abraham needed to depart his home country. That's why his final destination was not any city and town on this earth. That's why God told him to the place I will show you. And right now, you might not see the heaven, you might not see the eternal life, but trust me, follow me. Point two. It is a calling. It is calling that God promised the blessing. What kind of blessing was it? Is it as money or is the reputation? God said, I will be your God. I will be your God. If you look at here, there are two things in particular. God will make Abraham a great nation. Many descendants and kings will come from him. And also, God said he's going to make his name great. What does that mean? Great name here. I can say it this way: God is going to make, I'm sorry, God will be called by Abraham's name. So God himself called this way: I am the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. In ancient days, the name of deities were called by his power, his his specialty, profession, like thunder or rain or lightning or wind or sea. Because if a deity, of course, is imaginary, right? If deity is give thunder, he's the god of thunder. And rain is god of rain. But what about our God? He prefers to be called the God of person, God of nation, people, God of Abraham, God of Israel. What does that mean? He doesn't want to be called a God of his special works, his power, because God is almighty, right? But he wants to be called through his special relationship with his chosen people. So he wants to reveal his identity not through storm or thunder, but through a person's life. So Abram was chosen to reveal God's identity and his works. Wow. Imagine if you are chosen as his representative. What a great privilege and blessing. Therefore, the essence of the blessing is intimacy with God. And if you look at verse 7 and 8, whenever Abraham went, he built an altar and worshiped the Lord. Verse 7 and half down. So Abraham built an altar there to the Lord. And verse 8, there he built an altar to the Lord and worshiped the Lord. And God said, verse 2, up there, you will exemplify divine blessings. And literal translation is, you will be a blessing itself. We can say it this way: God's good nature and blessing will be demonstrated through Abraham, through you. So you are a representative of God in this world. You are chosen to reflect God's power, God's goodness, and God's character. And people in the world will see God's blessing in your life, and they're going to confess, oh, God is real and God is good, and they will come to the Lord and they will be blessed as well. So, what is the blessing here? The essence of blessing is intimacy with God. It's not, you won't be rich, but you will lack nothing. You won't be famous, but you will be known as God's people. This is essence of blessing. For what? For what purpose? As we mentioned before, but point 3 clarify of this. All nations will be blessed through you. This is the reason of your calling, ultimate purpose. Abraham's blessing is not for himself only, but all nations, but also for all nations. However, it is interesting how God bless all nations. In order to get God's blessings, do they need to do something? Do they need to do good works? Maybe, but here it is not. They needed to they needed to be blessed. I'm sorry. Yeah, they need to bless Abraham in order to get God's blessing. I can put this word. God will bless all nations through relationship with Abraham, through their relationship with Abraham, not by their works. You will say, is God fair? If you say this way, it's not fair because God bless not based on their works, but based on their relationship with Abraham. But we should know this because of sin, we all are destined to die. No one would be good enough to get salvation or reward from God. That's why, what was God's plan then? Not through the works, but through our relationship with someone God chose, with Jesus Christ, with his Messiah, we will be saved. So in the Bible, we see many stories that God saved sinners because of one righteous person. Noah's family was saved because of Noah. Lot was saved because of Abraham. And because of Joseph, his brother and his family, father's whole house were delivered from the famine. There are so many heroes of faith in the Bible who walked by faith and by whom God saved many people around that person. So I can say, through you, your family and your friends will be blessed. Let me close. Have you departed the journey of faith? Or still you're looking around how to make your life stable and settle down on this earth? Maybe you can say, I don't think God called me. Yes, Jesus is calling you. Jesus said, deny yourself and follow me. It is calling to a life of journey of faith. And also, he promised this blessing. I will be with you. God will become your God. The Lord become your shepherd. And God will be called God of somebody. Put your name there. So, what is true blessings? It's intimacy with God. And this is a vision of the calling. Yeah. You will become a channel of blessing for others. Through you, your family and your friends will be blessed. If you have not departed, why don't you depart today for spiritual journey? If you are on this road of faith, strengthen your first resolution and enjoy His presence in this journey. God bless you. Thank you.